up here, so I guess I gotta preach against it. But all right. Oh, are we at 10:55 on the dot? All right. I better start then. Pastor's up here, so all right. These guys got their coffee. That is what I'm talking about. There we go. Oh, sorry. Forget, sister.
That was awkward, but
is this better, Pastor? Perfect. Beautiful. All right. Very good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being up here. Great to see everyone. We had a great first session. And we're going to, in just a moment, talk a little bit about evolution. But I want to start with just a simple question. Now, I have a very famous painting up here. I'm a very famous commander in history. This is Napoleon Bonaparte. And I don't want to take a super long time with this introduction, but I do want to kind of start off with something that will help us in the next couple slides, okay? So, Brother Kyler, as we look at this painting, I want to ask for just a few observations. And I'll just tell you, I've taught a variation, not this exact lesson, but a variation of this lesson. I've used this illustration before. And I'm looking for something particular. I'm looking for a particular, I'll just say a fact about this painting. Okay, a fact about this painting. And every time I've done this, no one has gotten this fact correct. So, Brother Joel, if you were in Science in the Bible, you can't give away what I'm talking about. So I'll just give you a hint just to get away from spending too much time. This fact is extremely obvious. Like extremely obvious.
he's riding on a horse.
Okay? So he's riding on a horse is usually the first thing people say, and that's absolutely wrong with what I was thinking about. Yes, Brother Phil.
He's normally a shorter guy, but he looks larger than the horse.
Now that would be interesting. I'd have to fact check that.
In history, he's considered a short guy, right?
Yeah, I think he's about 5'8", so I think the English should try to make him look small. Definitely not as big as Pastor Royer. We know that for sure. No one's bigger than Pastor Royer.
He has a really big cape.
He has a really big cape. Anybody else? Sister Claire Lee?
It looks like they're in a war.
It looks like they are in a war. These are all great, but it's not what I'm looking for. He's pointing somewhere. Yep, up to heaven, something. Yep, that is a great observation, but that's not what I'm looking for.
That's not the point.
that's just an imposter.
It says Bonaparte right there.
It says Bonaparte. Yeah, how did that rock get there? But that's not what I'm looking for. Okay. Yes, Sister Sahara.
His horse is scared.
His horse is scared. The eyes are kind of wacko, right?
There's something like a black.
Brother Jeremiah knows the answer. Be quiet. Sit down. Oh, you are. Okay. So here's just to kind of keep moving here. This is what I'm looking for. What is this? It's a painting, which means there had to be a painter. And that's something that just when you're looking at the painting, you're trying to look at the finer details, but sometimes you have to step back and you have to realize that an artist created this.
Trick question.
Yeah.
No, that's why I said a fact about the painting, not necessarily an observation about the painting. So this is a very important issue because when we talk about the book of Genesis and we talk about the prologue, the beginning, okay, when it says in Genesis 1:1, this is my opening text, so hopefully I get a green light from Brother Stephen, that it says, in the beginning, what happened? Brother Colton, do you know what happens in Genesis 1:1? In the beginning, what did God do? You get a gold star. God created the heavens and the earth, right? He created everything. So, Brother Noah, this is very important for us because humanity, whether we're talking about the Hebrews in the Old Testament, we're talking about the Greeks, we're talking about ancient China, we're talking whatever culture you want to go to, even up to our culture today. People have explanations for how we got to where we are. People give explanations for our history. Where do we come from? That is a massive question. Where do we come from is a question that every worldview must answer, right? But what I think is so fascinating in our what we might call our Christian heritage in the West is that there has been a history of, maybe 200 years or so where humanity, culture has tried to explain our existence, Brother Justin, without God.
Yeah.
All right.
Right? And evolution is one of those ways that humans have tried to say we don't need God because we have evolution. Now, Brother Zuniga hit a little bit with the local flood and the universal flood the other day, and that is connected to Christians trying to adapt evolution. That's not really going to be my goal today. There are Christians, Brother Baldwin, that do believe in evolution, but we're not going to focus on that as much. But what I want to do today is to give you 3 ways to talk to someone when it comes to evolution. Okay, 3, and I'm going to try to do this quickly. I was a little bit like, man, I don't know if I can get all these in here, so I tried to simplify some things. But the first one, I just kind of have some stars in the galaxy up there. We're just going to talk about something called cosmology. That just means our origin. So I'm going to give you just a little bit there, but then that one's a little bit more in depth. So I'm giving you right now our objectives for this lesson. Okay, so for this lesson, everyone say cosmology. Cosmology. That was very good. We're going to talk just a little bit, Brother Tyler, about what we can, maybe how we can have a conversation with someone when it comes to our origins. But then for the fun of it, okay, because these are just kind of fun. Has anybody ever heard of dinosaurs before? Brother Joey, have you ever seen a dinosaur? You've seen one? Where? See, I've never been to California, so I don't know if you guys still had dinosaurs in this part of the world. But we're going to talk about dinosaurs, and then we're going to talk about ape men. Now, I'm not talking about your brothers, Sister Claire-Lee, okay? I'm talking about these, you know, you're watching that documentary, and they're like 50 million years ago. There was whatever, right? And that we dug up this ape man. So we're going to talk about those a little bit. So let's start with cosmology, okay? This, where did we come from? Let's start with this. I'm going to give you 3 statements that are kind of all asking the same type of question, okay? So, Brother Nathan, here's a very important question. How did everything come from nothing? Okay? So, if you're talking with someone, maybe someone at school or, you know, just maybe a friend. Now, I'll just tell you, if you get into a YouTube-style debate with someone, maybe just say, I love you, I pray for you. Right? You're not going to be a witness by being a jerk, right? So if you're having a discussion, that's one thing. But if you're talking with someone that gets kind of heated or, you know, unkind, then just remember that Peter said that we need to, 1 Peter 3:15 says you need to be ready to give an answer to every man, but not just be able to give an answer, but how should you give an answer? With meekness and with fear. That's right. You need to be humble, okay? And be able to give it in strength, meekness, be able to give it in strength, under control. You cannot be a good witness if you're a jerk, okay? So just, that's some good advice that I've had to learn in the past as well. But so to reiterate this question, how did everything come from nothing? Okay? Here's the next question. How did non-living matter, right? So this chair, okay, or something else just out in the world, a rock, okay, water. How did something non-living become alive? Okay? These are very big questions that every worldview must answer. Okay? How did non-living matter, how did non-living things then become alive or produce life? And then here's my last one. Okay? So again, these are just questions that you can ask people and then try to develop a conversation. How did chaos produce order and universal laws? Okay? Because we could talk about the water cycle, rain, evaporation, rivers, lakes, the sea. We could talk about that. We could talk about your body, right? When you eat something, okay, you need that for sustenance, you need that for growth and energy and all this, and there's a process, right, of how our bodies grow. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is, if there was nothing, and then all that nothingness produced everything, and then from all that everything, something became alive, and then from there, we have systems of order and universal laws and gravity, right? So you guys see what I'm trying to say? How could nothing produce all of that? Does that make sense, what I'm trying to ask? Because these are very important questions, and I don't think that evolution can answer all of those things. Okay? Sometimes, you'll get in conversations, and atheists, they try to have answers for these different things. But I'm trying to get us somewhere where we can talk about these issues with people and it not become a kind of a debate. So here I've never done this before, but I want to try it. Okay, I want to try this. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, I need you three gentlemen to stand up for me. I need you to, here, let's try this. I've never done this, but I just want to use this as an illustration, okay? I want you to go out into the hallway, okay? And then I want you to go kind of stand by him. I want you to go stand next to him. But you're making your way in here, so kind of make a line. So if Noah's out in the hallway, Joey just stand in the doorway. Yep, and then Brother Adrian, you stand right there. And then I want you, Sister Ariana, to go stand right by your cousin. And then you go stand right by your cousin. Okay, then you go stand by Sister Clara Lee, okay? Sister Sahara, okay. So here's kind of what if all we could see are the ladies here in the front, if that's all we could see, okay? What we're trying to figure out in our world today is where is the first link in the chain. I can't see Noah. No. But he's the first one. I know he's out there somewhere, but I can't see him. Yeah. Okay? But now let's who's right by you? Okay, brother Adrian's back there. I can't see him either, but just let's pretend that we can kind of see him. I need you to jump, and when you jump, just like flail your arms or do something like an explosion. Just one time. Okay. Oh, that was pretty good. Actually, those were practice ones, okay? Do it one more time. Ready? Everybody watch him. That was pretty good. You almost hit your head on the ceiling. That was very good. Here's what that represented. That represented what atheists are going to call the Big Bang. Okay? So from the Big Bang, from Big Adrian, okay, came these next links in the chain. Okay? But here's what I would argue. There was something before the Big Bang that caused it. Right. Yeah. So we have Adrian, but then guess what? We got Joey behind him, and then we got Noah far off in the distance of eternity past. Okay? So you guys can come back in. Thank you so much. You guys were the most wonderful links in the chain. I'm going to keep picking on you because that jump was amazing. So I'm going to have you do something else. Come up here. So here's my point, okay? Here's my point with that, is that we have links in the chain, and today in our world right now, we cannot see that first link in the chain, but we know it's there. Yeah. Because we're here. Yeah. Okay? So we're trying to figure out where that link in the chain started. Okay? Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to think very carefully before you answer. Okay. How many push-ups do you think you can do without stopping? 2, your dad said.
1.5.
1.5.
Are they girl push-ups or regular push-ups?
I said push-ups, so man push-ups, real ones. Let me ask you.
3.
Really?
3, yeah.
And you want a woman to submit to you, and you can only do 3 push-ups?
I do 3 push-ups.
Can you do 10?
Joey can do 10.
Joey's not up here. He's sitting down enjoying his coffee.
Can do 10.
Okay. Okay, get down. Okay. Let's see if you can do 3 push-ups. Okay. Now, I don't know if everybody can see him. Okay, get your knees off the floor. You said not girl push-ups. Okay, so we're going to count how many he can do. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You already passed double. 9. There we go. Keep going. 10. 10. All right, give it up for him. Bro, you tripled your expectations.
I really thought I only could do 3.
Man. All right, now here's the point. Here's the point of that one, okay? Here's the point of that one. Let's figure this out. If you could see Brother Adrian doing those nice push-ups there, okay? He was doing a couple, and at first you were feeling pretty good, right? You start getting to 7 and 8. Did anybody notice what started happening? Start slowing down, okay? Now, the first illustration, we're trying to get back to the first link. We're trying to get back to our origin even though we can't see it. We're trying to figure out what happened. Here's something very interesting about life, and we see this, okay? That energy wears down.
All right.
Okay? Right. That means that in this world. The other illustration that I could have done, I don't see anything up here, but if we had a ball or something and we were to roll that ball, eventually it's going to roll really well and then it's going to slow down.
That's right.
Okay? We see this with our own bodies. We see this as we get older. Okay? Brother Zuniga made a joke about me being a kid and leaving. I'm the oldest one in that group. So they've been making fun of me being old the whole time, and then he throws a kid joke out there. It's kind of an inconsistent joke there. But anyways, so what I'm trying to say is in life, what we see is that energy and things wear down. They slow down.
Yeah.
So here's the point. If the world has a starting point and things start to wear down, okay, let's say it like this, okay? There was a starting point that we cannot see today, but we know it was there because the world is wearing out.
All right.
The world is slowing down. Now, another thing that we could bring up, but I'm not going to, is that scholars are pretty clear that the universe is expanding. Okay, the universe is expanding. If something is getting larger, that means it must have been smaller at one point.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of this to say, all I'm trying to articulate in these couple of illustrations is that the world had a starting point.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Big Bang, or even as Brother Adrian was doing push-ups, now your body's getting stronger, right? Like if you were to keep doing push-ups, but in the moment you're getting tired.
Yeah.
You're getting, in a sense, weaker, right? Because as you do those push-ups, what we see in the world is opposite from what the Big Bang actually says. Because the Big Bang says that we have this explosion, right? Well, first of all, what exploded? That's why we had to get back from Adrian, we had to get back to Joey, to get back to Noah to see what exploded in the first place. But then an explosion, how does an explosion bring about systems and laws and organization and, as we said, life? So these are very important things for us, because here is what I would articulate is that here it is, are you ready? It is a matter of faith, whether you are a Christian
That's right.
or an atheist. Because in this room, we could not see Noah.
Right.
We could not see the first link in the chain. It doesn't matter if you believe in a Big Bang or not. You got to know what happened before that. Right. And we could not see Noah in the hallway, but we know he's there. We know we came from something. We know we had a starting point. So my question would be, which one takes more faith? And we'll see this in just a second. Because as Christians, we look at the Bible and it just says it right there at the beginning. You know, the Bible does not give a defense of God's existence. It just says, in the beginning, God. He's already there. He's outside of time. Atheists, and I don't mean this sarcastically, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but they kind of think they're really smart when they say, well, who created God? Where did God come from? But that's not, the Bible does not give a defense of God's existence, because He just is. He is outside of time. He is outside of space. He is outside of all these things because He created everything that we see. Okay? So when we say cosmology, when we're talking about our origins, what we are trying to do is look at the painting and we are trying to find the artist. Okay? Because when you look at this whole world, okay, we've already said a couple things like the laws and systems in your body, but not only that, it looks like things were designed. Right. Because a tree grows from a seed and it grows into a tree, right? It looks like things are designed for a purpose. Right. They have a function, right? God created you so that you could have a family and grow a family, then they could grow a family, and then we could take over the world, not in some spiritual, weird, mystical way, but we can take over the world showing this is what it's like to be redeemed by the Lord. This is what it's like to rule on God's behalf. That's taking dominion, showing God's rule in the world. That's your job as a Christian.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? And so all I'm trying to say is we're looking at the world and we're wondering, who is this grand artist that could paint and create this wonderful place that we call the earth. Okay, so this is what we're trying to say when we're talking about the what apologist people that defend the faith, what they would call the cosmological argument. Okay, where did everything come from? That's what we're trying to figure out. So this is what I was alluding to earlier. What is more believable? Time, which by the way is the God of evolution, because they say you need billions and billions of years. It's really time plus nothing equals everything. That's a evolutionary model. Okay. Or would it be more believable to say that there was a personal artist? And here, because, okay, there's so many things here. And I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a taste. Even look at your DNA. Scholars are looking at DNA and saying, this is so complex. Right. It's like computer code times a million or whatever. It's so complicated, it looks like it was designed. Now, some people are not willing to say that that is God, but they're willing to say that Darwin and evolution just can't explain the complexity that we see even just in our DNA. That's a good place to start, to talk to somebody about the God of the Bible. That's right. Amen. So, I didn't. This is such an in-depth topic, so I didn't want to get too crazy with the cosmology. But in essence, all I'm trying to do in this little section is to show us that there was a starting point. Yeah. So what makes more sense? That nothing could produce everything that we see, etc. I don't want to belabor the point. Or does a personal artist make more sense? So with that said, I want to move into kind of that second section. And I took this picture myself. And one of my buddies there standing bravely, definitely wasn't one of these guys. They're not brave enough to do that. But not old enough to be there. Yeah, you're you should, they dismissed the kids. You should have left in your session. But the dinosaur problem. Everybody loves a good dinosaur. Or at least that's what they tell me. But here's the question, okay? Do dinosaurs disprove the Bible? Because I've heard this, and I've seen people try to argue this, that just because dinosaurs existed, it proves that the Bible is wrong. Okay? It proves that Genesis is wrong. Okay? So, does the Bible disprove dinosaurs? I would say no. Okay? And I want everybody to do this. Everyone go to Job chapter 40, because here's what I'm gonna argue with you. Not argue in a mean way. Okay, but just to present to you that dinosaurs are actually in the Bible. Okay? They just weren't called dinosaurs then. Because you know your good King James Bible, that was translated in 1611. The word dinosaur did not come into our vocabulary until the 1840s. Right? The 1840s. And so the word dinosaur would not be in our Bible because it was not invented yet. So I want to focus on just a few things here. Am I supposed to be done at 11:30 or 11:40? What time was it? 11:40. Okay, I got to hurry because we still haven't gotten to the 8 men yet. Okay, but here is the context ever so briefly. When you're looking at a Bible passage, you really should know, context just means what's going on. You really should know what is going on in a chapter so you can understand the verses that you're actually reading. So in these verses, what God is doing, God is challenging Job. And God is asking things like, do you even know how things are created? Do you know about, and he starts listing animals, and even just items like snow and hail and stars. And God starts listing real animals like lions and ravens and goats and donkeys and hawks and all these things. But then God moves into two animals. Okay, now remember the context, God is talking about real things that existed in Job's day. And then he starts talking about this thing called the behemoth. Okay, look at who's got verse 15. All right, Brother Adrian, you are the MVP of this lesson, brother. Go ahead and read verse 15 for us.
Behold now behemoth, which I made with thee, he eateth grass like an ox.
Okay, now look at what it says in verse 15. This behemoth, whatever this thing is, which I made with thee. Okay, remember, a lot of things were created on day 6 in Genesis. Humans are created on that day, and many other things were made in that same time period. And God is saying that I made the behemoth the same time I made humans. Okay? Now look at verse 16. Keep going, Brother Adrian. You're doing so good.
Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly.
This is a strong creature. 17.
He moveth his tail like a cedar. His sinews of the stones are wrapped together.
Okay, he moveth his tail like a cedar. Now that's a cedar tree, right? Now, my wife and I have loved being here in California. You guys got some beautiful scenery, some beautiful trees here. The cedar, is this a small tree or a big tree? This is a big tree. And this creature, whatever it is, has a tail that is massive. Now, if you are reading something, and actually at the time, I did not have an NIV study Bible, so I actually went to Barnes & Noble to fact check this. But if you have a particular NIV study Bible, it will tell you that this creature is either a hippo or an elephant. Now, I don't know if you have ever seen a hippo with a tail that is the size of a cedar, but if you have, I would like to see it. That's not AI generated. And the reason for that is because the NIV, it looks like to me, these are Christians that believe in evolution. Okay, because they're trying to make this behemoth into something that it is not, with all due respect. Okay, so massive tail. Look at, let's see, was that 17? Look at 18 for me.
His bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron.
This is a very strong creature. And then 19, check this out.
He is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him.
Okay, Mr. Job, you think you're so great. Tell me about the behemoth. I created him. And it says, he is the chief of the ways of God. Now, Brother Zuna can get up here and call me ignorant if I get this wrong. But what it looks like the construction here is trying to say is that this is the largest land animal or largest creature that God has created. And if you look at what I'll call them Christian scholars, because obviously atheists are never going to say this, but it looks like a behemoth we might call today a different name.
Right.
Okay? It looks like we might call it, are these called sauropods? Where are my dinosaur experts? Brother Colton, are you a dinosaur expert? Oh, he shakes his head in shame, but that's okay because I'm not either. But a brachiosaurus maybe, the largest land animal. And when you actually look at the bones of these creatures, they kind of line up, even describing their bones and different things in the book of Job. Now, the book of Job, this is another side note, book of Job is incredible. The book of Job says things about the stars that we did not know as humans until about 100 years ago.
Wow.
And I know of some atheists that had become Christians because of the book of Job, because they would say, how could he know this unless the creator of those stars told him? I mean, there's so many things in the book of Job, okay? But I would argue that the behemoth is a dinosaur, okay? But there's kind of a problem because we call them dinosaurs, but they have not always been called dinosaurs. Okay, now the book of Job also talks about this creature called the Leviathan. But the Leviathan is in other books as well. One of my favorite books in the Bible, I'm teaching a class at IBC on this in a couple months. Could somebody grab for me Isaiah 27? Sword drill. Oh, I love a good sword drill. All right, who's got it? Verse 1. Brother Joey's got it. Isaiah 27, I should have put it on the board. 27 verse 1, Isaiah 27, 1. Whenever you have it, you can start reading.
In that day, the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan that breaketh the serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea.
Okay, now I'll give you a little bit of a side note. I'm going to bring this up tonight, but this is a passage that is expounded on in the book of Revelation. This is a prophecy about the fall of Satan, because you'll notice he's called the piercing serpent and the dragon. We see that in Revelation. And anyways, we'll pause there. But it says the Leviathan, but it calls this Leviathan a few names, including what? Because there's an argument that goes around nowadays that says, as we've been articulating, Brother Justin, that the word dinosaur did not come about until the 1840s. So what were dinosaurs called before the word dinosaur was invented?
Dragon.
Dragons. Because when you look at culture, historical cultures, all across the world, ancient cultures, and I have a list of it. You can go ask Brother Waldron this. He'll probably have fun talking to you about this. You go to the ancient Chinese, you go to ancient Mesopotamia. There's Brother Zuniga. There's creatures in some of these ancient myths that sound like dinosaurs. You can go to even some Renaissance scholars. So we know of like Michelangelo and Leonardo, and those are scholars and painters, but there's other people that were scientists in those eras. There's one guy that came up to a particular Renaissance scholar in Italy as a farmer, and he says, I killed a dinosaur on my way into town, or a dragon. He called him a dragon. I killed a dragon. Do you want to go check it out? And this guy went and dissected this creature and wrote in one of his medical books on this process of dissecting this dragon. And ancient China, there was actual positions under the emperor called like the dragon riders or the dragon herders. They actually had places where they would keep these dragons. And there's depictions of dragons. And of course, when I say dragon, you think of the massive wings from movies and books and all this breathing fire, all these things. But if you read the description of the Leviathan in the book of Job, kind of sounds like that. Scales, massive, terrifying. So maybe, just maybe, a few of these dinosaurs, because if they were on the ark, and you only have to have a couple of them on the ark, and if they would have survived a little bit after the flood, and you have all of these depictions from all over the world in mythology and paintings and all these artifacts that depict these creatures and they look, and what's so incredible is a lot of them look the same, with cultures that had never met each other. Okay, so what I'm just articulating to you is that what we call dragon, or what history has called dragons, we now call dinosaurs. But doesn't that, now the Bible, if the Bible's true, doesn't that mean that dinosaurs lived at the same time as humans?
Yeah.
The answer would be yes. But don't we hear all the time that dinosaurs died out millions of years before humans? Well, this is where Brother Manuel, just some really fun research has been coming out for about 20 some years. I'm just giving you the name. You can look this up a little bit later. I'm going to try to wrap this part up. Bless you. I'm going to try to wrap this up. But Dr. Mary Swatzer, I believe this was in North Carolina. She was not the first one to discover this, but she was the first one to make it popular. She and her team were shocked when they were looking at a T-Rex leg bone. And what did they discover? They discovered tissues, blood tissue, on an animal, right, in bones that were supposedly tens of millions of years old. And they were so shocked, she said, well, that can't be right. The test must be wrong, because she's not a Christian. And so she said, well, do it again. Do the test again. They did it over and over again, and they kept finding the same thing. They kept finding blood cells and blood tissue in these dinosaur bones. And she wrote it up in a scientific journal, and she got so much backlash. People were writing against her, saying that she didn't do the test right, that their instruments must have been corrupted, and they must have, had some bacteria in all these things to try to say this can't be right. Because why is this such a big deal? Because it's shocking. Because they know that blood cells and blood tissue, all these things, cannot last for millions of years, and they're finding this in dinosaur bones, which to us, we know why. Because the dinosaurs are not tens of millions of years old. They're thousands of years old. And these atheists and these non-Christians are so confused by why they're finding this. Now, I give them credit because they haven't given up. They're still trying to find an answer, but they're just not willing to accept that the Bible is the answer.
Right. Yes.
Okay? So just giving you a little bit of a taste there. Now, these are Christians. This is a good channel to look into. Is Genesis History. That's a good YouTube channel. I got this particular information from one of their videos. The gentleman on the right is Dr. Kevin Anderson. He and another scholar were digging, I believe, in Montana, and they found just below the surface. So this was not super deep, just below the surface. They found the largest Triceratops horn, I believe, found at the time. And they found, here's what's shocking, they found this bone with soft tissue still in it. Now, that in itself is still shocking, but what's even worse is being that it was just below the surface, it had undergone massive temperature changes, which that will break something down very, very quickly, right? Not only that, it was wet when they picked it up. If you want something to decay and become deformed or deteriorate over time very quickly, get lots of weather change. If you want an example of this, Sister Kilman, just come to Indiana, drive on our streets. You will find out the potholes are an example of this, the weather change, the water, all that stuff. So they picked it up, and the temperature changes and the water, it was shocking that the soft tissue, they could still stretch it under a microscope. Wow. This is shocking. But what it shows us is that dinosaurs are not as old. That's right. At least some of them are not. Not as old as what evolution claims. Yeah. Okay, so since then, it has been articulated that there have been hundreds of these publications of people studying dinosaur bones and finding, you can see the dinosaur type, you can find the material, and you can find out supposedly how old these artifacts are, these bones and different things are, but they still find biomaterial in them. And this is very shocking to atheists, okay? So I love a good dinosaur. But Brother Colton, like me, I'm not an expert. But they're pretty interesting. But what I just love about this kind of research is that, Pastor, we don't have to be afraid of what the Bible teaches. Right. We don't have to be afraid of that. If the Bible tells us that dinosaurs were created at the same time as humans, just give it some time. Brother Zuniga just talked about it. Just give it some time. Because where worldly wisdom will say, we have the answer, we know about this, just give it some time. No. Yeah. Because the world will catch up to God's wisdom. Yeah. Maybe. But just whether it's Sargon being lost to history, the only place we knew about Sargon was from Isaiah 20 for hundreds and even a couple thousand years. We're scientists, and they're smart people. They're not dumb people. They just have a different worldview. They have a different starting point. They have different, what we would call presuppositions. Okay, so I need to move on here. Just I've got 8 minutes, so we're doing good. Okay, what about the ape men? What about these guys we might call cavemen, or the missing link, or the common ancestor? Okay, now buckle up, just Brother Tyler. I'm going to show you a really weird painting. Okay, it's a little odd. Okay, it's a very odd painting, but I have a very important question to ask you. Okay, I don't know if this was like a dating site for ape men or what. You have like Mrs. Nebraska Man and Nebraska Man. I have no idea, but this is Nebraska Man. Okay, and this was a painting around 1917, somewhere around there. Okay, now here's my question to you. In order to think that something like this is accurate, what do you think would need to be discovered? So in order to dig something up, in order for an artist to say, we took what was found and we made this painting, what do you think would need to be discovered?
The skeleton or something?
So a full skeleton, or part of one, or?
Just the face, I guess.
Just the face? Okay.
At least half.
At least half? Okay. At least half? What else? One more. Teeth? Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that a single tooth would be enough to create a painting that you just saw? Anybody? Wouldn't it be like, oh yeah, a tooth is enough for me. That's enough. You don't think so? Sister Janae, here's what's shocking. Okay. This tooth was discovered. And from this tooth, evolutionists said, oh, we know what Nebraska Man looked like. And from this tooth, they've depicted Mrs. Nebraska Man and Mr. Nebraska Man. But then what was even more shocking about this, and I say this fairly comically, is that when researchers went back to where Nebraska tooth was found, Brother Noah, you know what they actually found out? This is not even from any type of, I'll say humanoid, okay? Any type of, or hominid, I don't know, tooth at all. You know what they discovered this tooth is from, Brother Tyler? You got it. A pig. This was a pig's tooth. And so they then kind of retracted everything and say, oh, Nebraska man, Nebraska pig, we don't know. Okay, so and this is one of Brother Gill's favorite topics, there's 3 ways that you can find an ape man. Okay, there are 3 ways. Are you ready for it? 3 ways to find an ape man. Okay, you can make a human look like an ape. Okay? You can, and this, I love this picture. You can make apes look human. She's got her little smile, right? And then the last one would be is that you can create your own. So I'm gonna lay out just a few things for you when it comes to these ape men. Okay? And I've got 4 minutes to do it, or until Brother Royer starts throwing stuff at me.
He already is.
He's already thrown. Oh, just verbally. Yep. Well, do we have a break and then dinner or lunch or? This won't take me too long. I'll do my best here. Okay. So in the 1850s, okay, in this particular valley in Germany, okay, bones were unearthed, and then since then more research has been done to find what we would call I think oftentimes they're called Neanderthal men, but I think it's more of a T sound, Neanderthal man, okay, the Neanderthals. And these are often depicted, okay, Brother Manuel, we actually have full skeletons of these guys, but this is how they're depicted. Or at least that's when they were depicted in the early 1900s. But what's so incredible is as more research has been done, okay, on these Neanderthals, and a lot of this information I've gained from atheists. So these are not just Christians shooting at this. I've actually gained a lot of this from other atheists. But these Neanderthals, they're spread out not just in Germany. They're spread out throughout the whole through many areas of the world. They know that they walked on 2 legs. We have several hundreds of these fossils. Okay. And we have them old, we have them young. So what I'm trying to tell you is that we have a lot of what we might say samples. Okay, we have a lot to look at when it comes to the Neanderthals. But look at what anthropologists and scholars, look at what they have discovered. They have found out that the Neanderthals, they used stone tools. Okay, so that means they had to make them and then know how to use them. Okay, they knew how to use fire. It looks like they had their own type of jewelry and decorations. Here's something interesting. It looks like they buried their dead. They even had some type of funeral services. We know that they actually knew how to care for the sick, as well as medical procedures like setting bones, things like that. It looks like they're very sophisticated. And actually, when we look at their DNA, it shows them very consistent with what we would say were of European or Asian descent. One atheist scholar that I was listening to said, if a Neanderthal was alive today walking down the streets of London, you would not know the difference.
Come on.
Wow.
Because one way that you can find an ape man is to take a human remains and make it look like that. Okay, now a brief issue would be, well, how did they kind of get like this? Okay, how can we explain some of these things? Well, there are certain things, chemical deficiencies, nutrient deficiencies, there's things like that might make some variations. And were there cavemen? Now, it depends on what you mean by that. If you mean millions of years ago and they said, ugh, I don't believe that, okay? But if the Tower of Babel, this is what I think, if the Tower of Babel was the center of human civilization rebelling against God and then God dispersed them, I think that some people went down to different areas. And Nimrod, Sargon says he built Assyria, he built Babylon, he built these areas. So you had some people that went out and did great things, but you had other people that went out that may not have had all that ingenuity. So I think you have cavemen after the Tower of Babel, after the disbursement, and that disbursement of civilization. But I don't think that they went around saying ugh, okay? So for what that is worth, okay. So here's just another example of how this happens. Again, very similar to Nebraska man, you have Java man, okay? Not the inventor of coffee, but Java man, late 1800s. And I'm just gonna go over this, again, I'm trying to be concise, but what would you need, same question, what would you need to have this type of image, this type of depiction? Well, probably a lot of things, but what they actually had was a skull cap, a thigh bone, and a few teeth. Okay? But a few, the guy that found this, the guy named, I think his name was Dubois, he kept these items hidden in a chest, and he would not let anybody look at them. So a couple decades after this discovery of Java Man, another expedition went out by evolutionists. So these are not Christians just trying to debunk evolution. These are actually evolutionists. They went out in what is called the Salinka expedition a few decades after this, and they began to find out that the molar, at least one of those teeth, was from just a modern human, not from some caveman. And they said that they actually found very close to where supposedly Java Man was found, the skull cap and all that, they found modern human remains. Okay? Maybe a crime or a burial, I don't know. Brother Gil just kind of goes to dark places very quickly, so Brother Z and I always have to help him out, try to give him. But what the second expedition said was, okay, Java Man, there's no connection to evolutionary history of humans. No, none. There's none. So Java Man, evidence, not really. Okay? So this will be the last, the middle one. So the first one was to make humans look more ape-like. Let's jump to this one. So this particular guy down here, Charles Dawson, he went out one day, and we'll kind of give you the spoiler up front, okay? He dug in the ground, and he went and took some various bones from animals and a couple human bones, and he took all these things and he did some work on them to make them look old, and then he buried them. And then he went back to his digging crew a little bit later, said, hey, let's come over here, and I think they're in England, and so let's come over here and let's dig in this. And he's like, okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is just a random spot. Let's dig right here. Let's see what we can find. So they dig in, they're like, oh, it's a bone. Oh. And so they start digging these things up, and they find Piltdown Man. And people thought, he did it. Charles Dawson. He proved Charles Darwin's right. And everybody celebrated Dawson. Schools were named after him. Streets were named after him. Time magazine, I don't know about Time magazine, but some of those other things were true. Things were named after him. Children were like, named Charles because of Charles Dawson and Charles Darwin. So all this stuff, he became famous overnight. But even at the time, there were people that began to question, and they wanted to study it a little bit closer, but it was not until even after this individual, Dawson, died, that scholars began to look and I'll let you do the reading to see how it happened. This was a complete hoax. Wow. A complete fabrication. They found out some of these bones are human, some of them are not, some of them are orangutans, all this stuff. This is not an actual ape man at all. So there's one really nice way, one very easy way to get an ape man is just make up your own.
Yeah, come on.
The problem is that it's not real.
Right.
Okay? So it just is striking to me that someone, now, we may not, and maybe he wrote in a journal somewhere, I don't know. I don't know what Dawson's motive was. I don't know if he just wanted a quick rise to fame, he wanted money. I don't know if his motive was just to prove evolution. I don't know what his motive was. But it's striking to me, this is the point of showing this hoax, because evolutionists, if you bring this up, like, oh yeah, that's just a hoax, but the other ones are real. Here's the issue. Even if you are a scholar and you see something that you want to see, you will believe it.
Yeah,
that's right.
So here's something very important, especially for the young people in here. Just because a quote-unquote scholar says it. Now, I've been saying a scholar a lot, and every time I say it in my head, I always going to say, well, scholar, okay? And I'm not trying to down people, because they're not dumb, right? There's some very smart, very intelligent people that have done a lot of research, okay? But what I'm trying to articulate and present to you today is that just because they are called a scholar, it doesn't make them infallible. It doesn't make them automatically right. Okay? So we need to let the evidence speak. We need to let the evidence go. Okay, so I have one more. I'm trying to keep going here. Okay? So Australopithecus afarensis is this big name. Okay? This is what the example that we would use to take something like an ape and try to make it look more human. Okay, now there are a lot of, this is the particular one that was found that they call Lucy, and there she is just looking very with a half smile. She's like the Mona Lisa of the Afarensis world, okay? And so she is supposedly 3 million years old and supposedly connected to our ancestry, all this stuff. And they say, that she walked on two limbs and her feet were this way, her hands were this way, all this stuff, that she looked just like us except for like that, okay? And so she's kind of lifted up, or not necessarily Lucy, but the Afarensis like crew. They're like lifted up as being, that's our heritage, that's our ancestry, okay? So here's the deal, like I've seen some documentaries and some Christian scientists that look at this and they say, what atheists have done to her to try to make it look like she walked on two legs, they had to like chisel her bones a certain way to like make them fit, because if you're an ape and you're kind of walking one way versus always walking on 2 feet, your bones are going to be structured different. So there's a lot of manipulation of the evidence that goes into this, and even like her hands have kind of from my understanding, a little bit of a natural curve to them. So does the feet bones. So what does that sound like? Not just walking on 2 feet. It sounds like she's grabbing onto tree limbs and stuff like that. Okay, so it's rather interesting. And they say, well, this proves that the Afarensis or Lucy proves that they walked on 2 feet. Now, I want you to look. These are the Laetoli footprints. They were whoever made these prints walked in the ground here, and then there was a volcano eruption, and the ash spread out and basically fossilized these footprints. And they say, well, these are and I keep saying Lucy as a wide category. Lucy is a specific skeleton, but like the Australopithecus afarensis is kind of like the species. So they say, well, no, that Lucy's family made those tracks. Okay, but scholars, again, even the lady that found this, her name is Mary Leakey, I believe, she was very confused because there's actually, you see smaller prints and then the bigger prints, but there's a third set of prints that are actually inside of the bigger ones. And this is what she said. She says they look like modern human prints. And she said, we know that a younger child is going to walk in the footprints of their elders. But she said, but we know humans weren't alive 3 million years ago, so it couldn't be humans. You see, that's a presupposition. Yeah. Because Lucy's skeleton, her feet bones, do not look like this, from my understanding. Her feet bones look like a chimp's foot bones, not like this, that actually look like human bones. And this scholar that even found these footprints are saying they look like humans, but they couldn't have been humans because Lucy made those tracks. That's 3 million years ago. Does that make sense? What she's denying even just what she's seeing because of her presupposition, her idea that humans are millions of years old. Well, maybe these tracks are not millions of years old. Maybe these tracks are only a couple thousand years old. Yeah. Okay, so I took a little bit of time. I apologize. But what I'm trying to hopefully present with you today is just a little bit of a taste of things that you can look into. And when you're talking with someone and it says, in the beginning, God created, you don't have to be afraid of that. That's right. Scholars are, I'll say human scholars in the sense of human wisdom. They will always be looking for ways to explain our existence without God. That's right. They're always going to do that. Amen. Until He comes back and they all bow down before Him. So we can stand for what's right and not be afraid of it. Amen. Amen? Amen. All right. Amen. I used the mic just for you, Pastor. I used it for you. One more session.